Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge, where I sit with some of the theater's best and brightest, just chatting it up. Screen Actors Guild Foundation and BroadwayWorld have partnered for a filmed conversation Q&A series celebrating the vibrant theater community here in New York City and the union actors who aspire to have a career on both stage and screen. This special event, which is coming from the John L. Tishman Auditorium at the University Center, is a career conversation with two of Broadway's most glorious voices, Kelli O'Hara and Stephen Pasquale, who are heralding romance back to Broadway in the new Jason Robert Brown and Marsha Norman musical, The Bridges of Madison County. Please welcome Kelli and Stephen.
I can't tell you I know what the answer will be. It's impossible, but this is bigger than what we can see. This is destiny. We are tied, we are locked, we are bound. This will not be reversed or unwound. Whatever fate the stars are weaving, we're not breaking. I'm not leaving, and you and I just 1 second spinning by in just 1 second. You and I have just 1 second, and a million miles. All my life I have been waiting. All my life I have been waiting. You and I have just 1 second and a million miles to go.
So as we get started here, I just want to say that The Bridges of Madison County is stunning in every way.
Thank you very much.
A gorgeous epic musical on every level. Stephen, you have finally made your Broadway musical debut. How does it feel?
Amazing. I'm 15 years I waited to be in a Broadway musical. I'm really glad it's this one. We're having a great time.
No thanks to Dennis Leary.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dennis Leary.
So how were you able to make this
We'll
one
explain that
happen?
later somehow.
Well, I became available. I was doing a god-awful television show which got canceled and became available and right at the time when Bart was getting ready to do it. So I was working with Bart on another thing in a workshop capacity, and I said, you know, I'm free. What do you think about Bridges of Madison County? And he said, let me call you back. And so he called me back and said, let's do it. A couple days later, it was really, really happy news.
Yeah, but this, you're making it sound like but this after you did a reading of Bridges of Madison County, and we never had anyone better.
Yes.
Than you.
Hopefully, that's true.
So that
hopefully.
was,
we did work on it, and it was great when we did it together, and I was hoping it left an impression, and you know, they called to say, let's do it, so it did, which was really happy for me, and hopefully Kelli.
So take me back to the beginning. Kelli, this was sort of written for you by Jason Robert Brown, right?
Yes.
How exciting is that?
Amazing. Believe me, I know when I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm pinching myself. But yeah, no, he wanted to write it. I don't know why an Italian immigrant, you know, aging farm wife. But I think it was musically driven, obviously. I've always wanted to sing the kind of score that I was trained to sing, which is more operatic and more of a dramatic kind of soprano, not so based on the thin parts of my voice, more the thick. And he went to town. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Well, talk about the characters. They're so beautifully written because they're written through the songs and the book. Talk about what attracted you to each of these roles.
Well, what's beautiful about what Jason and Marsha and Bart have accomplished is, you know, in the novel, which is the source material, they oftentimes have interior thoughts which go on and on about what they're feeling. And in our version, it allows the opportunity to sing, which is like a perfect something to musicalize. So the music happens in a really organic, kind of earthy way, which is, I think, one of the reasons why it's speaking to people who come and see it, certainly. Do you agree?
Yeah, somebody said to me one time outside of the stage door, which I thought was one of the best compliments. They said, I just realized what it means to, when you say, when you can't say something, you have to sing it,
Yeah.
which I've always believed in and wholeheartedly, but they said it. They said, I've just figured it out. And that meant so much to me, because that's what I feel about this score. It's amazing. And to answer your question about the character, Francesca is, because of all the differences between me and her, that's what I loved about it. I wanted to be challenged that way. But then it's amazing how much likeness you find, and how much similarities and connections you have with a person, if you're really trying to make her real and sympathetic. And you know, I grew up on a farm. People I know in my family very much living that life of doing something and never really continuing with their dreams and things like that. And I got to. So imagining not is a great tool in this particular character, so to use for her. So I'm in love with her right now.
Yeah, and for Robert?
I was very drawn to Robert, if for no other reason, because he's an incredibly solitary, interior kind of person, and I always get cast as kind of a fast-talking, northeastern kind of guy. And I was really interested in all the things that he doesn't say, but maybe sings, or lives in the quiet moments in the play. And I thought that was really an appealing and new challenge for me. So he's a really interesting character. I'm having a good time with him.
And talk about working with composer Jason Robert Brown, because he writes the music, the lyrics, and he orchestrates his score at the same time. What that whole process has been like, with actually recording it also.
He's one of those freaky, just really gifted people. He also has an incredibly high shooting percentage, for lack of a better term, in that, like, when he writes something, it's so rare that he has to rewrite something. His initial instinct is so good, so much of the time.
Yes, and quite fast, really.
Yes.
I mean, just, oh, you need something else, and you can't tell him what it needs to be, but once he figures it out, it's done. You can't say, oh, I don't really agree with this isn't right. He'll get it. You just do it, you keep doing it, and you know that maybe the next day it's in your hands. And I remember when we first started this, we did one workshop, and I had a lot of songs that kind of matched his style, the style, that folky, rural kind of thing. And I said, but wait a second, we talked about, you're writing, you said you want to write your Traviata, you want to write this for me to sing, and let's try to do that. He showed up the next reading with the entire first number, which is, to me, one of the more satisfying things I've ever sung in my life. I didn't say anything. He just showed up with it, and that built our character. That built her. That's how she was found. So I owe a lot of that to just his kind of. You can't pierce the man necessarily, Jason, but somehow inside there he's more capable of human emotion than anybody almost I've ever met. But
yeah,
it's hard to explain. Jason's an interesting fellow.
Yeah, he's so gifted. He really understands the human condition musically in a way that is very, very rare.
Musically, yes.
Yeah, he can express in music what you could never express in words.
It's like Adam Gettle.
Yeah, we mentioned Jason and Adam Gettle in the same breath a lot, because for singers like us, we feel like those are the two people who ask a lot of you technically, but also understand musically the human condition in a way that no other writers, with the exception of course Sondheim, maybe have done in a very long time. So they're just touched people like that. So you just try to grab onto those coattails and enjoy the ride, I think.
Because this is more than just a musical. It's an opera, it's a play, it's epic, it's sweeping. I mean, there's so much more to this. I mean, so much of your characters are sung, the journeys they take. Challenges as singers to sing his stuff or not?
People have been asking me that, aren't you exhausted? There's somehow, because it is matching the emotional content, somehow it kind of, you jump on the train and you ride it. I don't know how to explain it any better. I thought, oh gosh, I never leave the stage. We're out there, we're singing at the top of our voice, but somehow it's easier than something like Pajama Game for me. I don't know how to explain that, because it just matches. You're not actually reaching for things that aren't already there. You're kind of there, and the music just kind of. So I'm having an easier time with it than I ever expected to.
But it's also, I think, right in our particular vocal wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Kelli
he
and I
wrote
both.
it in mind,
So it's not like we're trying to do something with our voice that is an unnatural thing. It's very right in the strike zone for both of us.
Right.
And then going back to Bart, I just
Yeah.
love his whole look of this show too, with people, that Thornton Wilder, Our Town, sort of building a home and building an area where you all live, and you see everybody when they move things on, who they are.
You know what, I've learned a lot about Bart in this. I mean, I feel like I learn something new from him all the time. I'm certainly having my education, secondary education through him, and he's a mentor of mine. He believes in this country in a strange way. I think he somehow is like this European man in the body of this San Francisco born, kind of started his career at the Guthrie. I mean, he's not, now he travels, he does a lot of operas and things in Europe, but he's an American. And he wants America to be the kind of place that he thinks it can be, which is a kind of place where people aren't as stupid as people in the middle of the country as some people want to think. And I enjoy that from him. I appreciate that from him because I'm from the middle of the country. But because he wants it, he started with this kind of Our Town, Oklahoma, the staircase. He's paying homage to all these very delicate signs of rural Americana. And then he's taking it and, you have the friendship with Marge where you think the entire time she's going to rat her out. You think she's going to be this kind of typical busybody. And what we find out is that community actually loved this outsider. She's going to support Francesca. She's not going to, she's going to be there for the rest of her life for her and never really talk about it. Even when Francesca almost opens the door, see you tomorrow, she says. Yeah. I'm going to be here tomorrow just like I've been the whole time. All of these things, the color of the sky, the beauty of that backdrop, which is a painting. It's not a projection. It's a paint. Don Holder's lights make it like alive. All of these things making you know that this place in the middle of America that people discount is actually filled with richness and good people and good ideas and simple things, life. But he wants to make everything glow,
Yeah, Bart is, I like to describe Bart as a master of scope. He's a master wrangler of authors, first of all. He's a master at storytelling with actors. He's a master wrangler in terms of scope, in terms of the look of the show and his designers. And he's a great leader of a company. He's all of those things. You don't often get that in the same artist. Bart's not a guy who uses a God mic. You know what a God mic is? When you're in rehearsal, there's that stereotypical filmic idea of a director being like, let's take it from the top. Bart doesn't do that ever. He comes up on stage to you and he has a private conversation with you about something incredibly delicate. And then he walks away and you play the scene and somebody in the house goes, God, that was beautiful. Like he's that kind of artist. And what he's done with this play is explore, as Kelli said, American ideals in like a really beautiful, proud way.
You have this terrific cast that you all work with. Talk about your fellow cast members.
I only work with Kelli O'Hara in this play. Can you believe that?
That's true.
Isn't that funny? And I think, is this crazy, Kelli? I think you're the only person I worked with in Far From Heaven, too. So Kelly's been my only scene partner for like 2 years.
Well, you did make out with that man once.
Oh, that's right. In Far From Heaven. But no dialogue.
Yeah, no, just make out.
You started to talk about going up to Williamstown. Was it weird?
So weird.
I mean, so you were 8 months pregnant?
I'm very, very pregnant. Actually, I was 8 months pregnant when we finished.
She was
Far From
24
Heaven.
months pregnant when she came to Williamstown.
No, I was
like
9 months pregnant when I wasn't supposed to travel to go see Williamstown, but I was going to anyway. No, the truth of it is that it's like making a dress for 4 years and then having someone else put it on for the first time. And Elaine is an old friend of mine, and what ended up happening is I was scared to go see it. But I was so glad I did. I thought it was beautiful, and I was so encouraged by, and also just anxious to do it, and very happy that we found someone like Elena to do this for us, because she's so beautiful, and she's standing by for me now, and she has 2 small kids, so it's kind of a perfect situation for her. I think she's very happy to be able to have this job and to go on and totally own it when she does, and when she doesn't, she can be with her kids. Yeah. We all look for opportunities like that. But to go see it and to be able to sit out there and sit in between people who are at certain moments grabbing their loved one's hands, or learning that I fought so hard about Francesca not being so the invitation of come in for tea, you know. I were really worried about her being a person who you could identify with, and here I was around these audiences. They were totally into it. Go, you know, go get him, you know. Oh, and I learned from that. I actually learned what the audiences are wanting.
I think you, Kelli and I are old friends, so we often talk privately about what we're feeling about on stage and the work and the material. But one of the things that I felt so relieved about was when she came, because we had many conversations about Kelli O'Hara feeling like Francesca can't be accessible or easy or anything that is like that. And so seeing the show in Williamstown allowed her to then say to me after, like, I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah.
Like the audience is so interested in this couple getting together after like 4 minutes that they can let go of this completely. So I think it actually took a weight off of her shoulders when we entered the rehearsal process. We didn't even really have to talk about that so much.
No, there were other things, and but it's good to learn. You don't get the opportunity. I've only seen shows I've been in after I leave. So that was pretty amazing to get that extra added, you know, I had information. I had information that I shared with Steve. You know, like, this part really didn't work.
I was going to say it was valuable in that way. Like,
Sorry, no offense.
no, it's
but
true.
that
I mean,
didn't work.
they're great artists working behind the table, right? But you know, Kelli and I are friends, so I would say, what's not working? And we'd have a private conversation about that, and then we would say to Bart or / Marsha and Jason, we feel like this isn't really working, and we kind of agree. So we actually made a lot of successful changes based a little bit on Kelli's experience as a person who hadn't seen it, seeing it.
Sure. Well, where did you two first meet? Take me back to that.
I think it was a snuff film.
It's that snuff film again.
Just making ends meet.
Yeah, just trying to make ends meet, young actors in New York. No, we met doing a workshop of a, well, that's not true. We actually, do you know when we met?
It was the work.
No, it's actually not when we met.
The show.
At
Spitfire Girl.
Through our mutual friend,
Garrett Long,
yeah.
We were introduced, but then we shortly, around the same time, did a workshop of a thing called the White House Affair.
That's correct.
Again, I played an adulteress,
Was it a
Roosevelt's. It was a musical. It was just a reading. It was a short reading. You were like the cowhand.
I was like the mechanic.
Yeah.
She was like the president's wife or something.
But then when we really we went to I was his freaking.
Oh, you were his
I was
mistress.
his girl.
You're just so slutty all the time.
I wasn't Eleanor Roosevelt. No, but I remember I had to sing a lyric. And haricot vert. Oh my gosh.
And haricot vert.
Yeah. So
note to young lyricists, don't write
we
that.
went to Sundance. We went to Sundance, Utah, the summer of 2002, and did a half of a reading of a new musical called Light in the Piazza. You were playing Fabrizio. I was Franca.
She was Franca, and we were with Ted Sperling and Mark Harlick and Celia Keenan Bolger and the most incredible group of artists that I've ever been
Adam
around.
Gettle, and watching deer pass by a river while we.
Adam Gettle, Craig Lucas, listening to this music that was moving us to tears and feeling like, well, these bonds will never.
So that's when
be
we
broken.
bonded.
Yeah.
We shared half a cigarette, and I went and threw up.
Yeah. That's right. I was a little bit of a smoker then, and Kelli was like,
Then.
let me have one of those.
You've been smoking
And I was like, here. And she full blown,
I was like,
in Francesca style, was like,
I was
green.
never a smoker, really.
I'm glad.
I do a lot of other really, really sordid, bad, dark things, but not
But not
smoking.
cigarettes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you both worked on another great musical, Far From Heaven, which is just stunning.
Thank you.
Fans of Far From Heaven?
Oh, now come on. There was a lot
7 of you. That's amazing.
Well, no one could get into
act.
the show.
Just
people,
pretend
act.
like you saw it and loved it.
What a beautiful musical written by the team, part of the team that gave us Grey Gardens.
Absolutely.
Scott Frankel,
Michael Corey, amazing.
Richard Greenberg,
Yes.
Michael Greif.
Michael
Sure.
Greif.
Okay, fondest memories of working on that musical, because I loved everything about that musical. The score, the book, the direction, that whole Mad Men feel.
That's nice of you.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say, I've been talking about, Jason wrote this music for me, but Scott and Michael wrote Far From Heaven. These two things happened at once for me, which is a pretty, believe me, again, pinching myself, at the same time that I was having a baby. Like, it was a pretty heavy time in my life, and I wasn't going to say no to either one of them, because when somebody does that, it was a dream. Scott Frankel came to my house, this role of Kathy and these beautiful songs that he wrote for me to sing. Scott's another one. I mean, just musically so brilliant and so accessible and easy. And so my favorite part of that was just getting to explore again the kind of way I wanted to sing. And it was a harder subject matter. It was a different kind of thing. But but it was so fulfilling. It was so fulfilling at the time, and even doing it out there, waddling around pregnant, I just felt, I felt so grateful to be there.
We had a great time working on that. Kelli was so pregnant.
Yeah.
That, there's this one scene where
By
like,
pregnant, you mean
I mean like,
swollen?
I mean,
bloated.
I mean, early in the process, it was not noticeable. By the end of the process, when I was attempting to mount her on the couch, I was like suspended in air on her. It was like one of those exercise balls at the gym where you're just like, I think we were like, I don't think the audience is buying this moment.
And I was like,
you just got to have this baby. We just got to have this baby
I
right
was like,
now.
it was terrible.
What does it feel like being the only one? Looking for kindred spirits and finding none. No one to make you welcome and nowhere to run. Being as you're the only one.
But I love what you do, the art form of doing 8 shows a week. So few people can do that.
So few people can do it.
And you do it so well. You have a family. I mean, I don't know how you sing, both of you, how you sing this show.
Well, I
so
sleep for
nearly
10 and a
8
half
times
hours
a
every
week.
night. Kelli sleeps for like 3 hours every night.
I got a 4 stretch last night.
So I like to come to work and I go, oh, Kelli, I'm so tired. I slept for like 9 hours last night.
You know,
She's
honestly,
like, it's fine. Charlotte woke up 10 times in the middle of the night, but it's fine.
like I'm very aware of the girl who's pretty cliche stature in this business.
Yeah.
The truth of it is it's the fucking truth. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I love my family, and I love singing like I've never loved anything in my life. And the thing is that I say it because it's true. I don't say it to pull anything over on anybody. I was born to sing somehow. No one in my family sings, really. Something happened, and I started to sing, and it put me in my place in this world. And I decided I would come here and do it. And I'll be damned if I go somewhere and get caught where I can't sing or act. It was my dream, and I'm doing it, and I'm grateful for it. So I do it 8 shows a week because it actually really, really fills me up.
Yeah.
And I question myself, is it your ego? What is it that makes you want to do that? And I've come to the conclusion that it makes me feel joyful. And
Oh my gosh.
if it gives other people joy, my husband says as I leave, as I go out, he says, go spread the joy. If it brings joy to anybody, then I'm doing my part, and that's why I do it. And
I read something the other day that scientifically speaking, there is an exact correlation between singing and a higher level of joy. Isn't it funny that you said that?
well, I'm
Yeah.
lucky then.
I want to go back to the beginning. Growing up, where did your love for performing begin, and what were your early creative outlets?
I grew up in a small town in central Pennsylvania where if you weren't into sports, then I don't know what you did as a kid. So I was an athlete all my life until my junior year in high school, and I got hurt playing in a football game, and a friend said, do the play. And so I auditioned for the play, and I was cast as Tyrone in Fame, who is the black kid dancing his way to the top of the Big Apple.
But show him why you were show him.
What?
Show him why you were.
Oh, I know, because I've got this kind of flexibility.
Wow.
But I had that flexibility because I broke my legs as a kid, and so I had to tie my shoes all the time with broken legs. So I love that. I think I impressed him with my splits.
This one is the most.
Anyway, so it was like the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. It's so beyond bad. If you had seen it, you would think there is a 0% chance that's going to be a professional actor. 0%. But I had such a great time that I wanted to do the musical the next year and the play, and then I went away for a summer to Northwestern. They have this thing called the Cherub program, and I studied theater with kids who also had a passion for it and found out like, oh, there's a whole other world for kids that doesn't involve sports or practice, where we just like accept each other and do plays. Mm-hmm. And I was really hooked at that point.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I grew up in a small. I wanted to say exactly the same words. I grew up in a small western Oklahoma town where if you didn't do sports, then you might as well not have even been alive. So I was an athlete most of my life. In my junior year.
Was that late?
Well, I did some things. I was singing around town. I sang in church, or I sang at different weddings and funerals and things. My sister and I would sing sometimes. But theater in general. But we moved when I was a junior to a town where theater was kind of it was a smaller school actually, but the theater program was actually kind of cool. And I started doing, and then I was cast as Maria in West Side Story.
Just colorblind casting in small town America.
It's the same story. It's the same story.
Isn't that crazy?
While playing sports, I couldn't give up the sports, and because they were, and but yeah, and then but I really honestly I was 5 years old when there was a Miss America named Susan Powell, who was from my little town of Elk City, Oklahoma, and she'd come back to sing, and I thought she was a princess. I thought it was the most beautiful thing. I'll never forget it. And I found out at some point around there that she took voice lessons from a woman named Florence Birdwell at Oklahoma City University, and I made a decision that I wanted to know the Bird Lady someday. And so when I was in high school, I took singing lessons from a student of hers, and then auditioned for Oklahoma City University, and then she became the changer of my path in my life.
Interesting. Stephen, you never studied voice, did you?
I have not.
You are
Listen, never
ridiculous.
studied voice. You did a tour first of West Side Story.
Yeah, when I was 18, I went to New York on an audition on a whim, and I booked the role of Guitar, the non-dancing jet, but a Tony understudy. And I went out on the road with West Side Story for a year. And then my second audition ever, I went to New York City and auditioned for Miss Saigon, and I booked the role of Chris, so I went out and played Miss Saigon like 1,200 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, this business is easy. You just go to auditions and they give you the job. And then I moved to New York and spent every dollar of my tour money and didn't book a thing for like a year and a half. So I learned how, it's not for the faint of heart pretty quickly when I got here.
Oh yeah,
But you learned to sing on that tour.
I learned to sing on the job. I'm a good mimic. So growing up, I grew up. I learned to singing along with Stevie Wonder and Billy Joel and Donny Hathaway and eventually Mandy Patinkin and the single greatest legit musical theater singer in the world, a guy named Anthony Warlow.
Oh, love him.
Yeah.
South Pacific. What was that like for you? One of the most glorious. How many people saw South Pacific here at Lincoln Center? I mean, that glorious production with that beautiful orchestra, working with Bart, you and Paolo. I mean, playing Nellie, Rodgers and Hammerstein.
You know what? I don't think I realized the impact of that. I don't do anything in my life without somebody mentioning South Pacific to me, which is interesting because Nellie is a certain kind of person that I think I identify with. I mean, people identify me with her as a person. She's Nellie Forbush, and I think that is a big part of who I am. She had some issues that I don't share, but I think it was the right time in my life, and when I do other things and I realize that not everybody gets to have a 40-piece orchestra where the stage opens up and you can hear the glory of an 8-minute overture because Lincoln Center can afford to do it. Mm-hmm. Working with people like Paolo on that beautiful thrust stage with Bart Shear, that's one of the things that I will never take for granted. When people say I loved you as Nellie Forbush, I'll embrace it with all of my heart. Yes, I want to be different. Yes, I want to, kill somebody in King Lear, and I had people come to King Lear and say, "This wasn't Nellie Forbush," and but you know what? It was one of my proudest moments. So I'm grateful for it, and it was as beautiful, and we were as proud of it as you think.
I'm as corny as Kansas in August, high as a flag on the 4th of July. If you'll excuse an expression I use, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love with a wonderful guy.
Stephen, you did 2 beautiful plays at Lincoln Center. The musical Man of No Importance. A Man of No Importance, the Lynn Aron, Stephen Flaherty, Terrence McNally musical, and that wonderful play Spinning into Butter.
Spinning into Butter, sure, Rebecca Gilman. That was my first play in New York, Daniel
And that was a
Sullivan,
very important play for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it took me out of the sort of casting pool of sort of singer first, actor second, because I've always considered myself an actor who kind of sings.
Yeah.
And Daniel Sullivan put me in that play, and I had a great time, and some people noticed, and my career really took off at that point. So it was an incredible experience.
And then doing the musical there too. Talk about that.
Well, I think they were actually getting rid of an actor, and so I was kind of a last-minute fill-in. So Joe Montello and Ted Sperling, who Kelli and I just worked with for the summer on the early production of The Light in the Piazza, I was like fresh in their mind.
Yeah.
So Ted recommended me to Joe, and I came in and did my Irish dialect for Joe, and he said, "Great, let's do it." So that was my first big musical in town, which was a great experience. Roger Reese and Faith Prince and Jessica Molaskey.
It
And
was such a great, I loved it.
I mean, just an unbelievable company of people.
And then Kelli, you worked, of course, with Kathleen Marshall.
Yes.
The great Kathleen Marshall
Yes.
on 3 different projects.
Yes.
'Cause-
Another thing,
yeah.
I mean, another really wonderful situation where you, and then once you do get hired, it doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden just irreplaceable. Believe me, when you're in work, you show yourself, what my friend says, you got to remind them why you were invited to the party in the first place, constantly.
Yeah.
And Kathleen and I keep working together because we've become friends, and because I respect her and I think she respects me, and we work easily and well together. But I think you've got to remember that some people get a little big for their britches. We're all lucky to be here, and you get in the room and you be a team player. You know, you be a and then you learn how to be a leader, so that it goes, because I've actually seen a company cracking because of what's coming from the top. It really comes, you know, once you are doing a lead or something. Victoria Clark is a good example of being our mother hen in Light in the Piazza, and therefore we had a beautiful company of really, really well-behaved people. And it also came down from Bart.
Yeah.
But Kathleen is the kind of person who is loyal, very loyal, and works with people again and again. And I wanted to be in that family. She was the choreographer for a production of Follies that I did. Matthew Warchus did the directing, and I was a swing, internal swing. I played young Betty Garrett, young Hattie. But I covered 3 of the girls, and so Kathleen and I didn't have a lot of interaction, but boy, was I trying hard. Wasn't much of a dancer, but
Interesting, I didn't know that.
yeah. But she remembered me when I went in for Pajama Game. Was really our first time again to. We'd worked on some roundabout galas and things, but when I came in for Pajama Game, I think she must have been a champion of mine, because they didn't know who I was,
Yeah, she
and
was.
Harry didn't know me.
And then you had to meet Harry, right? Then like
Then
one of the
we had a chemistry meeting.
Can you imagine a chemistry meeting?
What do you
between her and
wear?
Harry
You know what I
Connick?
mean?
How great is that?
We're just going to meet. We're going to meet in
Nothing.
this room, just you,
Yeah.
you, me, and Harry.
Yeah.
And then so
And
yeah.
you hit it off right away.
Oh
you and
yeah, we're
Harry.
both Southern, and it was really fun. And but she actually probably really championed my getting into that. So it comes, everything leads to something else, you know.
And then of course nice work if you can get
And
it.
then that role, completely not really my type, and she had a feeling, because she put me in Bells Are Ringing, which again, total comedy, belting, all this kind of stuff, and she said, I think you can do this. And so from there, she said, I want you to come do nice work.
Stephen, you had the honor of working on 2 Neil LaBute plays.
I have. I did Fat Pig. I replaced Jeremy Piven the first time he quit in Fat Pig. And then I did Reasons to Be Pretty on Broadway, which was an incredible experience. What an unbelievable play. A super starry season that year. I remember it made me sad because it was an incredible season in terms of movie stars that were working on Broadway. And we had like just a bunch of quality theater people working on Reasons to Be Pretty. And we didn't last long, but people sure did love that play.
And you both had a wonderful story with The Light in the Piazza with Adam Gettle about, you could only do the workshop or the pre out of town in Seattle because you were doing a TV show.
Yeah.
You came to Broadway in the whole thing, but you worked together then. So, I mean, you had like this disconnected kind of journey.
Yeah, several times, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, the journey from Sundance to Broadway was like 3 years, or 2.5 years or something. So we did it together the first 2.5 years of it, really.
Yeah.
I didn't do the last
Seattle.
production of it in Chicago or the Broadway company.
But we never did it as Clara and Fabrizio, sorry.
Right.
I was always Franco. And then we did the Goodman without you for the first time, because that's when you started shooting. And then with plans for you to come back and do the Broadway. And then I moved into Clara, and that man, Dennis Leary, here we come back to it, wouldn't let him out of his, he needed his star player to be, he just couldn't let him out of his schedule, and we understand that.
My final question is, what is the best bit of advice that each of you have been given that you live by?
Oh, let your talent guide you is a great one that Harry Connick Jr. actually gave to me. I don't even know him that well, after an audition where I didn't get cast in that musical that he wrote. I remember he said, I loved your audition so much. You're just young for this. But man, you're really good at what you do. Just keep doing it. Let your talent guide you. Like, don't get down on yourself. And I've never forgotten that. I thought that was really valuable advice.
Yeah, I think it's the same advice I give in different words, which is nobody is who you are. Nobody does what you do. I used to get bogged down by someone would be singing my song in the audition room, so I'd switch mine up and then fall on my face because it wasn't what I had planned, or just worrying too much about what someone else is doing and the path they've taken, and that's why am I not in that same spot, or why have I not there's only you, and somehow you're going to be the one right thing that moment when you walk in, and so it's let who you are guide you. Make the decisions based on who you are and who you want to be. Don't do things that you think. As an actor, I'm reminded of like Tootsie and what's his face saying, oh, I can be taller, I can be shorter, I can be, which is true. We can be so many things, but the core of you is what drives every character you'll ever play. So if you lose that, then you're basically floating around and you have no roots and nothing to pull from.
Yeah.
So just keep the core strong.
Well, I have done this for a very long time, and I want to thank you for one of the best afternoons.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.